6 years after the divorce, I ran into Gu Lingchen at a postpartum care center. He came to settle the bill for his wife. I was the sales consultant handling it. We exchanged polite small talk. He hesitated, then finally spoke up. If you're ever in trouble, my number hasn't changed. I said coolly, no need, I'm doing fine. After settling the bill, he suddenly asked me, Tao Nian, do you still hate me? I smiled and didn't answer. I don't love him anymore. I don't have time to hate him either. The reception room was neat and quiet. A faint scent of baby lotion filled the air. When I didn't speak, he started explaining. She insisted on staying at this center. I didn't know you worked here. This booking was a big deal. My colleague closed online. $1 million premium suit. The client said her husband would come sign the contract and pay. I never expected it would be Gu Lingchen. I smiled and replied with a little self-promotion. We're the best chain brand in the city after all. I organized the contract. I asked the colleague to give him a complimentary hospital bag we'd prepared. When my colleague handed it to him, she gave a polite compliment. Mr. Gu, you're so good to your wife. Even a celebrity client didn't spring for our premium suit for his wife. Gu Lingchen glanced up at me. Seeing me busy replying to client messages, he said he'd be going. I walked him to the elevator, like usual. He glanced down at the $1 million watch on his wrist. You're almost off work, right? Let me give you a ride. I politely declined his offer. I pressed the elevator button for him and turned to leave. Tao Nian. He called out to me again. I turned back, confused. As our eyes met, his phone suddenly rang. He frowned and answered. I turned and kept walking. Behind me, I heard a woman's familiar flirty voice through the phone. It hit me. This was the 6th year since Gu Lingchen and I divorced. My colleague was entering client info on the computer. She kept muttering to herself. Man, marrying well is everything. Mr. Gu's wife is totally living large. Her social media is all designer bags and jewelry, eating and playing everywhere. I saw it on her feed. Her husband seems to be the CEO of Linda Group. The next second she made a weird sound. I looked over. What's wrong? She sounded confused and shocked. Tao, you also stayed in our premium suite 6 years ago. But the husband's name and number listed are exactly the same as Mr. Gu's just now. And she added tearfully. Why does it show number of births as 0? I leaned toward the computer. I saw that check in record from years ago. So it's been 6 years. That time of such unbearable pain. It had finally quieted down in my heart. I spoke calmly. He's my ex-husband. 6 years ago I did an empty postpartum stay here. I grabbed my bag and left under her stunned gaze. When I met Gu Lingchen, it was the darkest time in his life. His father passed away, his mother remarried and abandoned him, so he was sent to live with his aunt. His uncle made him sweep in a shabby shed made of straw, treated him like a dog. I'd often see him curled up in that broken shed, eating cold leftovers. I couldn't stand it. I dragged my parents over to talk to them. But his aunt and uncle were arrogant, were nice enough to feed him. If not, why don't you take him in? I was young then. I didn't catch their sarcasm. I actually brought him home. Gu Lingchen was heartbreakingly well behaved. He said carefully to my parents. I don't eat much. I can do any work. I can sweep on the floor. My parents softened and gave him a place to call home. From then on, we went to school together and played together. From childhood friends to first love. We naturally got together. My parents were happy about it. They joked I'd picked up a child groom for myself. Then we got married. No wedding, but we were happy. On the day we got our marriage license, he told me with tears as I gave him a home, he'd give me a lifetime. But his lifetime turned out to be so short. Just 5 years. After marriage, he threw himself into his career. He quickly made it big in business. The day his company went public, I drove my parents and brother to see him. On the way, he called me in a panic. He needed me to bring him an important business document right away. I immediately turned around. Gu Lingchen kept calling, urging me. Without realizing it, I drove faster and faster. When a car suddenly swerved in front of me, it was too late to brake. That terrible crash killed my parents instantly. My brother desperately shielded me at the moment of impact. In the end, I survived. But my brother suffered severe brain damage and became a vegetable. I lost all my family overnight. Outside the operating room, I sobbed uncontrollably. Gu Lingchen held me tight, his eyes red. He kept apologizing through tears. He said hoarsely, Nian Nian, you still have me. You still have me. After that, Gu Lingchen covered my brother's huge annual medical bills. I put all my energy into caring for my brother. I dreamed every day that my brother would wake up. But another nightmare was quietly approaching. Looking back now, the day I first met Zhou Nini seemed so ordinary, but it stirred up huge waves in my life. My brother had a girlfriend in college named Zhou Nini. I'd heard him mention her, but never met her. When she heard the news, she came to the hospital to see my brother. The young, pretty girl cried her heart out by the bed. At first I appreciated her loyalty. I even told her to move on, not to wait. But she refused to give up and kept coming. Sometimes when she had to go back to school, I'd have Gu Lingchen give her a ride. At first he'd sigh, annoyed. This girl must be made of water, she cries nonstop. But then things weirdly changed. He started praising Jonini to me. Every time I drive her back, she cries the whole way to school. She's pretty pitiful. Such a devoted girl. Just a shame. He rarely praised that. Saying this much was clear admiration. Back then I was totally focused on my brother. I didn't think about his weirdness. Slowly Jonini came less and less. I didn't think it was strange. Everyone has their own life after all. Everyone has to move forward. I was glad she'd listen to me. But then one day I went home to grab something. I pushed open the bedroom door. That girl I hadn't seen in a while was lying naked in my husband's arms. Those two tangled bodies stabbed into my eyes like sharp picks. I rushed over like a madwoman. Before my raised hand could hit her face, Gu Lingchen shoved me back. I stumbled. Tao Nian, I'm warning you, don't touch her. The woman curled against his chest, crying. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I never thought it would turn out like this. Chen was just comforting me when I was sad. But we just hopelessly fell in love. Joe, Hank only became like this to save you. If you really want to make it up to me, why not let Chen and me be together? Gu Lingchen pulled her close protectively and said coldly to me, Tao Nian, you can't blame her. All this time, you've only focused on your brother. Have you thought about me, your husband? I need companionship and care too. My nails dug into my palms. No pain could match the one in my chest. In that moment I finally realized she'd moved on through a new romance. She'd moved on by having an affair with my husband. And him feeling sorry for her tears was the start. I belatedly checked his dashcam footage. I found days and days filled with those disgusting sounds of panting. He coaxed her hoarsely, saying, Who are you crying for now? The woman couldn't hold back her cries. You, it's you. Who am I? The sounds of fabric rubbing got more intense. She finally broke down and begged, Gu Lingchen, you're Gu Lingchen. I hated them so much then. I had only one thought. I wanted that cheating pair to pay. I extracted the audio from the dashcam, made it into a video and posted it online, tagging her school and his company's official account. I called them out by name. But I underestimated Gu Lingchen's power. He had his PR team handle it fast. My video vanished without a trace. Gu Lingchen slapped the bill down in front of me, his face cold. This is your brother's yearly medical costs, best hospital, best imported meds. I spend hundreds of thousands a year keeping your brother alive. Keep causing trouble and don't blame me for cutting off the money. Those words completely crushed my fight. When we were young, and people bullied Gu Lingchen, calling him unwanted, my brother and I charged in again and again, beating them bloody. Back then he told me, yeah, Nian, your brother is my brother. We're family forever. I laughed. People change, I had nowhere to turn. He held my weakness over me and forced me to give in. I had to swallow it all. But I never imagined that swallowing my pride would become my brother's death sentence. I saw Jonini again in my brother's hospital room. That day, I just reached the room. I saw her crying by the bed. Johan, I'm sorry, I really fell in love with your brother-in-law. If you can wake up, will you ask your sister to let us be together? Don't worry, even after your sister divorces, once I become Mrs. Gu, I'll have Chen keep covering your medical bills. I stormed into the room yelling and dragged her out. Get out! Who said you could come here? But she stood her ground. I used all my strength and slapped her hard across the face. As we struggled, she suddenly shoved me hard against the wall. Medical staff rushed over and pulled us apart. But then my stomach started cramping badly. I found out later I was 4 months pregnant. That shove made me lose the baby. Gu Lingchen said to me in a low voice, You lost this baby, you can have another. But you hit Nini so hard she's deaf in 1 year. She'll have to wear a hearing aid for the rest of her life. Hearing his words, I laughed through my tears. Maybe to compensate me, Gu Lingchen spent a fortune to put me in this high-end center's premium suit. I did a 42-day empty postpartum stay. He'd occasionally come see me. I ignored him every time. Eventually, he stopped bothering. He turned to openly being out and about with Jonini instead. I lived each day in a daze. Those 42 days felt like a lifetime. The day I finished my stay, I rushed to the hospital to see my brother. But I was told that the day I fought with Jonini, my brother had passed away. Gu Lingchen had covered it up early. It was like my last bit of life was drained out of me. I completely fell apart. I cared for him so carefully, always hoping he'd wake up. Finally, the doctor told me my brother was showing signs of waking. For that day, I was willing to give up everything. But Jonini's words forced him to his death. I hunted down Jonini like a maniac. I grabbed her hair and slammed her head into the wall. In that moment, if Gu Lingchen hadn't held me back with all his strength, I wanted her to pay with her life. This time, Gu Lingchen threw a divorce agreement at me. Years of love turned into that divorce settlement. In the end, I only got a small apartment and $50,000 cash. The apartment was the first place we'd saved up to buy together after marriage. I protested, but he said coldly, Nini convinced me to give you this much out of respect for your brother. Otherwise, after what you did to her, I could make you leave with nothing. Not long after, he threw a huge wedding with Zhou Xini. Everything I never had, he gave to her. Walking out of the law firm, I was about to call my driver, when I looked up and saw a black Maybach parked right at the entrance. A man leaned against the car, ash falling from the cigarette between his fingers, like he'd been waiting a while. Hearing footsteps, Gu Lingchen turned and looked at me. The next second, he straightened up, crushed the cigarette, and walked toward me. I frowned. You're still here. He nodded slightly, his gaze fixed on me. Tao Nian, I was waiting for you. Get in. I'll give you a ride. A ride? Seeing my confused look, he asked gently, aren't you going back to our old place? I shook my head. I'm not going there. I sold that place a long time ago. His expression froze for a moment, then he said, just get in. We can talk in the car. Seeing I wasn't budging, his smile turned a bit bitter. Tan, don't be like this. Just think of it as an old friend giving you a lift. A car pulled out from behind, blocked by the Maybach, honking non-stop. The driver was already leaning out, cursing. I had no choice but to get in the back seat. I gave him the address, Binhai number 1. He paused. You live there? Binhai number 1 was the most expensive villa complex in the city. Without waiting for my answer, he figured it out on his own. Right, your job is meeting clients. I didn't bother explaining, just nodded. Rush hour, traffic was bad. The car crawled. Windows up. The cramped space was dead silent. Gu Lingchen glanced at me through the rearview mirror, his tone cheerful. Why did you choose to work there? That maternity center held my darkest memories. He thought I'd avoid it like the plague. But I wasn't interested in being honest with him. Just brushed it off. It's just a job, anywhere's fine. I remember you used to hate dealing with people. If it doesn't suit you, I can help you find something easier. No need, I'm used to it. We arrived. Just as I was about to get out, someone grabbed my arm. Before I knew it, a bank card was pressed into my palm. I looked up, confused, meeting Gu Lingchen's complicated gaze. I asked his lips together and said, I know that place didn't sell for much. If you need money, there should be enough on this card. If it's not enough, I'll transfer more. I suddenly found it hilarious. When we divorced, he never thought about whether I'd need money. Now, he's suddenly worried about me. I placed the card on the center console and pushed it back. No thanks, take it back. If he'd given it to me back then, I would have taken it without hesitation. After all, I earned it. But now, the guy at home is pretty jealous. I don't dare take this card. I didn't expect that the next day, Zhou Xini would show up herself. The woman was impeccably made up, her pregnant belly wrapped in a Chanel black dress. She looked quite elegant. Nothing like the naive college girl she used to be. She rubbed her belly and walked up to me. I'm here for a refund. I changed my mind. I don't want to stay at your place. I asked calmly, all business. Is there a problem? She scoffed. What else could it be? I didn't know you worked here. Now I do. Better to keep our distance. I'm not comfortable leaving my baby at a place where you work. What if you try to get revenge? The manager came over and tried to persuade her to stay. Zhou Xini pointed at me, no refund, fine. Fire her. Not long after, a man hurried in. Gu Lingchen walked through the door, nodded at me first, then grabbed Zhou Xini's hand and pulled her toward the exit. Come home with me. From the elevator, I could hear Zhou Xini and Gu Lingchen arguing. Any maternity center is fine. I just won't stay at this one. Did you forget how she hit me? How can I trust my baby at a place where she works? What if she takes it out on my baby? What if something happens? Laughed coldly. Why don't you mention how you made her lose her baby? Gu Lingchen, why do you keep defending her? I noticed something was off yesterday. You came home distracted after seeing her. And maternity centers only need a deposit. But you lost your mind after seeing her. To boost her sales, you paid $1 million in full. Gu Lingchen's voice grew more impatient. Zhou Xini, are you done? If you don't want to stay here, go home. Keep the $1 million. I'll consider it compensation for Tao Nian. I owe her anyway. Gu Lingchen, you two are divorced. Don't forget. I'm Mrs. Gu now. After all these years with you, do you even have any feelings for me? The woman finally broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. Gu Lingchen just watched her fall apart, coldly. Afraid they'd wake the babies, I said a few words to the manager and clocked out early. Seeing me, Gu Lingchen looked guilty. Sorry, Xini's emotions are all over the place. The elevator dinged open. I walked in and said, I already quit. I'll finish this month and go. Zhou, Xini, stop crying. The two of them rushed into the elevator with me. At the entrance, Gu Lingchen suddenly called out, Tao Nian, did we cause trouble for you? Let me help you find another job. Come work at my company. Before he could finish, Zhou Xini rushed over and linked her arm through Gu Lingchen's. The same woman who was just throwing a fit in the elevator had dried her tears and changed her tune. smiling sweetly. Honey, it'd be awkward for Tao Nian at your company. Your employees will gossip. Tao Nian, let me help you find something. After all, you quit because of me. I have a friend whose company is hiring. I'll send you over. Plus, he just got divorced. You're single too, Tao Nian. Maybe you two will hit it off. I listened and just smiled. But Gu Lingchen pulled his arm away, his face blank. Zhou Shini, that friend cheated. Did you forget? And you'd introduce him to Tao Nian. In that moment, I felt like I'd heard the world's funniest joke. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. People have such short memories. He forgot. He cheated too. I barely laughed twice when a large hand wrapped around my waist. A deep, rich voice came from above. Honey, what's so funny? I looked up and saw the man's tired face. I smiled, wrapped my arms around him, and said surprised, weren't you flying back tomorrow? He kissed my forehead. Finished early, rushed back. You gonna introduce me? I finally snapped back and looked at the two stunned people in front of me. Alright, let me introduce you. She's my husband. Pei Lan. Dema. I paused, still searching for the right words. Sen, ex-husband and his mistress. How do you introduce that? Before I could figure it out, Gu Lingchen stared at me, eyes complicated. Tao Nian, your husband is President Pei. When did you get married? Zhou Shini looked Pei Lang up and down, disbelief in her eyes. Pai Lang wore a confident smile now, extending his hand to Gu Lingchen, his tone dripping with mockery. Heard a lot about you, Mr. Gu. Gu Lingchen politely reached out. President Pei, the pleasure's mine. Before their hands touched, Pei Lang pulled his back, clearly playing him. Zhou Shini's eyes darted between the waiting Bentley and Pei Lang's expensive clothes. I knew what she was thinking. She saw I was living well, yet working at that maternity center for peanuts. Her eyes were full of confusion and doubt. But under Pei Lang's commanding presence, she didn't dare ask. After saying goodbye, Pei Lang walked me to the Bentley, his arm around my shoulder. The driver had been waiting by the car. Seeing us approach, he quickly opened the back door. The car pulled away, leaving those two figures behind. Pei Lang took my hand. His broad palm easily enveloped mine. His warmth passed to me, soothing. Just like when he pulled me out of hell. Pei Lang and I met at the private hospital where my brother stayed. His mom was in the room next to my brother's. He visited her often. We got to know each other. After leaving the maternity center, I found out my brother had passed. I cried so hard at the hospital, I fainted. Pei Lang was there. He steadied me, kept me from falling apart. After the divorce, I thought about ending it all so many times. What did I have left to live for? Lost my family, my husband betrayed me, lost my baby. I watched people walk together, laughing and smiling. But I stood in daylight and couldn't see the path ahead. For a long time, he stayed close, worried about me. Eventually, I learned Pei Lang's wife had passed 5 years earlier. He'd lived through the same unbearable pain. Because he'd been drenched, he wanted to hold an umbrella for me. His love ran deep. Gu Lingchen couldn't compare. He stayed alone for 5 lonely years for his wife. My marriage to Gu Lingchen only lasted 5 years. Slowly, I got better, thanks to him. We became close friends who could talk about anything. The day he proposed, we watched a movie together. I still remember, it was called A Brief Marriage. There was a line in it. Some marriages end because one person leaves. Some marriages end because 2 people drift apart. Which ending is worse? Death and life, or life and death? I asked him then. Who's worse off, you think, you or me? Pei Lang smiled and reached out his hand. In his palm, a diamond ring sparkled. He looked right at me and said, the one who won't move forward. Tao Nian, let's move forward together. Yeah, the one stuck in the past has it worst. Clinging to pain, too afraid to step into a new world. Since that's how it is, might as well embrace life and love. I put on that ring, took his hand and walked into the future. That winter, Pei Lang's love warmed me. A beam of light broke through the thick night and lit up my dim life. Our married life was happy and sweet. Soon our first child was born. After she was born, I did everything myself. I poured all my love into our daughter, making up for the child I never got to meet. In a blink, our daughter was old enough for preschool. That's when I had time to work on my career. Pei Lang wasn't old-fashioned. He didn't have that outdated idea that his wife shouldn't work. He encouraged me. You're my wife, you're our baby's mom. But before all that, you should be yourself. Later, Pei Lang and I talked about what I should do. After thinking it over, I decided on the maternity center. The timing was perfect with the 3-child policy. We had plenty of properties. Pai Lang offered to buy the fanciest maternity center in the city for me. I said no. Instead, I chose to go undercover at that postpartum center for a while, figure out how this business works, then plan things out slowly. After all, as a newbie, I can't just go in and lose money. But wouldn't you know it, I ran into Gu Lingchen and them. That day, a coworker sat next to me scrolling through videos. Suddenly her eyes went wide and she shoved her phone in my face. Chow, check out this video. This wife looks like that Mrs. Gu. I was confused and looked down at the phone. In the video, a pregnant wife and a mistress were going at it. The wife grabbed the mistress by the hair, yanking hard and tearing at her clothes. The scene was pretty intense. But when I looked closer, I realized that pregnant wife was actually Zhou Shishi. She clutched the woman's hair, screaming shrilly. You tramp! How dare you send me that stuff? You think he actually likes you? Dream on. It's only 'cause your face looks a little like his ex-wife. You keep clinging to my husband, I'll rip you apart. At first she held back because Zhou Shishi was pregnant. But seeing the other woman tearing at her clothes, the mistress suddenly shoved her hard. Zhou Shishi hit the ground hard. Her face went deathly pale. She clutched her belly, wailing. In the footage, the mistress broke free and looked up. That face suddenly caught my eye. I froze for a second. My coworker's shocked voice rose beside me. Chow, how does this mistress look kinda like you? A few days later, Zhou Shishi checked into the postpartum center early because of her miscarriage. Life's full of weird coincidences. I once lost my baby because of her and spent 42 days alone in this expensive but cold suit. Now the tables have turned, and she's the one stuck here. I felt a little satisfaction. After all, those wounds never touched her body, so she never felt the pain. She'd smashed things all over the room. When I went in to check, I mentally tallied up the items. I told her, Mrs. Gu, I'll keep track of these damaged items. When you check out, we'll need compensation for our losses. She sat against the bed, head back, tears streaming down. She looked completely haggard, not a trace of color in her face. Nothing like that young, vibrant girl from before. I heard her suddenly laugh mockingly. Her voice was incredibly hoarse. You feel pretty smug, don't you? That mistress is his secretary. He personally hired her. The first time I saw her 6 months ago, I knew Gu Lingchen had regrets. I turned a blind eye to her being kept around as his secretary. But ever since he saw you again recently, he's been distracted, barely coming home. That day I went to his office to find him, and I caught him with that secretary in his office. At this point, her emotions flared up again. That tramp deliberately wore one of your old outfits. He was drunk, he mistook that woman for you. She cursed through tears of grief and rage. That tramp even sent me photos to provoke me. Tao Nian, it's you, it's all because of you. Why did you have to show up in front of him again? After hearing all that, I still felt nothing. A cat that strays once will stray again. Zhou Shishi clung to false hope, thinking she'd be the exception. I tugged at my lips and asked her, You think I wanted to see you too? If you hadn't insisted on staying in this top suite I once used, we wouldn't have run into each other. I could guess why she insisted on this room. She just wanted to prove she meant more to Gu Lingchen than I once did. My words left her speechless, her lips opening and closing. For a long time she couldn't come up with a rebuttal. Her phone on the nightstand buzzed. She glanced at it. The next second, she grabbed her phone and smashed it on the floor. The phone slid to my feet. I instinctively looked down. On the screen was a pregnancy test showing positive. I laughed softly. Her tricks are just like yours back then, aren't they? During those 42 days in this room years ago, I kept getting all kinds of photos from Zhou Shishi. Her and Gu Lingchen hugging, kissing, holding hands. I went from furious at first to slowly numb. Back then, I never imagined those arrows that pierced me wouldn't spare her either. 2 days later, Gu Lingchen finally showed up at the postpartum center. He'd barely been in the room a minute when loud arguing erupted inside. Finally, the man spat out in disgust. If you insist on embarrassing yourself like this everywhere, then you can stop being Mrs. Gu. Once the passion faded, he turned cold and ruthless, just like he did with me. But Zhou Shishi's anguished sobbing inside was even worse than mine back then. He stormed out with a dark expression. I happened to be doing a handoff with my coworker. Our eyes met briefly. I looked away. I finished briefing my coworker on everything and headed to the elevator. But I saw Gu Lingchen still standing there. He hadn't pressed the button. He was waiting for me. I walked over and reached out to press the down button. But he grabbed my wrist. Tao Nian, I have regrets. He said Zhou Shishi was like a maniac interfering with his life. She wouldn't let him get too close to other women. His car couldn't carry any other women. His secretaries and assistants could only be male. Even the household help and cleaners, she handpicked each one, making sure no young woman had a chance. If he went against her wishes, she'd show up at his company and make a scene. Zhou Shishi thought she was smarter than me. As long as she blocked Gu Lingchen from any contact with other women, she could prevent future problems. She wouldn't end up like me, with her taking advantage. He sighed helplessly, saying when he first met her, she wasn't like this. He didn't know when she changed. He seemed genuinely clueless about where it started. His voice was low and raspy, heavy with exhaustion. Emotions churned in his eyes, a bitter smile on his lips. She told you everything, didn't she? Truth is, I've regretted it for a while now. Zhou Shishi and I can't make it work. That secretary was just an accident. That night I drank too much. I'll make her get rid of the baby. I frowned slightly, and quickly shook off his hand. Like I'd touched something filthy. My tone carried a hint of impatience. This is between you two. You shouldn't be telling me all this. I quickly walked into the elevator as it opened. I couldn't help but remember the image of them lying in the bed I'd made years ago. Back then, they held each other, claiming they couldn't help themselves. Shouting about true love, demanding I let them be together. Yet 6 years later, it's come to just this. That passionate affair has been ground down in marriage. For the rest of their lives, they'll probably just despise each other. Just tormenting each other. What happened next, I heard from my coworker. After I left, Gu Lingchen never came back to the postpartum center. Zhou Shishi's mood got worse and worse. She'd blow up at the staff every day. She kept calling Gu Lingchen. Once, my coworker heard her demand angrily. Gu Lingchen, why did you pay double to buy back that old marital home with her? She's already married. She's not moving back there with you. You two will never happen. My coworker said with dismay. We never should have taken her as a client. Every day she's screaming and carrying on like a lunatic. The other new moms complain constantly. We're worried she might do something, so we even brought in a therapist. She kicked the therapist out. Later, on Sweeping Day, Pei Lang and I went to pay respects to my parents. Mom and Dad's graves were right next to my brother's. At each grave sat a bouquet of white gardenias. Just like the past 2 years, the large gardenia blooms were snow white. Crystal clear water droplets rolled on the open petals. The faint floral scent drifted into my nose. I quietly looked down at those 2 bouquets. I remembered back when I was still a kid. 1 year after Sweeping Day. Mom joked with Dad about what happens after death. Mom said openly to us kids. I don't like chrysanthemums, I love gardenias most. When I'm gone, just bring me gardenias when you visit. Dad went, Baba, and scolded her for saying unlucky things. That year, Gu Lingchen was 15. The boy looked at Mom and nodded seriously. Mom, I'll remember. I'll bring you gardenias. I chimed in too. Mom, and me, I'll bring you gardenias too. My little brother ran between us. Looked up and said with a cheerful smile, innocent as kids are. If Mommy likes this flower, then I want this flower too. The whole family turned and went, Baba, at him. A spring breeze blew past, the ribbons on the bouquets fluttered slightly. I bent down and picked up those 2 bouquets of gardenia. Just like every year before, I turned and tossed them in the trash. I took the 2 quads of gardenias from Pei Lang and placed them in front of the graves. Gardenias mean eternal love and promises. The person who brought them isn't here. Mom wouldn't be happy receiving them.